Pipit, right?
No,
Pipit.
not me, please.
Oh,
I just finished teaching from 8, so my voice is.
oh, okay.
Let me be the last aja, Fajar.
Okay, you will be the last. So the first one is Donald, right? And then Mita is not here, but maybe he will. Maybe she will come. Stephen, Okla, Imong will not. Edo, and then the last one is Pipit. All right. So without hello Imong. Wait, maybe. Okay. So because of the time, so each speaker maximum is 20 minutes. That's included the question and answer, yeah. Okay. So the first one is Donald. So the time is yours, Donald.
Okay, thank you, Fajar. Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have this opportunity to share books with each other. And for today, I would like to share a book by Václav Smil. The title of the book is Numbers Don't Lie, and the subtitle is 71 Stories. Before that, Fajar, do you have any guideline about what I should say?
Oh,
Or I
I will
can,
copy paste that.
yeah.
Okay, it's on the chat.
Okay, thank you. So the title of the book is Numbers Don't Lie, and the subtitle is 71 Stories to Help Us Understand the modern world. And why did you decide to read the book? Wait, I missed the chat window. And why did you decide to read the book? Because Václav Smil is one of Bill Gates' favorite authors, so I follow him. And he writes many books, usually on energy. I shared another book of his maybe 3 or 4 months ago. The title was How the World Really Works. And this is like a follow-up to that. In How the World Really Works, also by the same author, he explains the foundational things that make our modern world works, like steel and plastic and so on. And this book is a follow-up. It contains small chapters. So there are 71 chapters, just brief chapters on different topics. And the goal of this book is to give us understanding about the facts in our world today. Because many of the facts are not covered in the news. The news usually we only get the something that is emotional or something that is newsworthy, right? But there are so many important developments that are not in the news. What are your key takeaways from? Oh, so why did you decide to read the book? Because I want to better understand our world today. Despite the news, again, the news only talk about the newsworthy things, something that can get people's attention immediately, but there are so many things beneath the surface that are also important. What are your key takeaways from the book? It is an insightful book for me because it gives me understanding about many things. One example is the best number to measure a country's development. Maybe the most popular number is GDP, Gross Development Product, that is very popular. And recently, many organizations use another number, no longer GDP, but HDI, which is Human Development Index, which they say is more broad than GDP. But according to the author, actually HDI or Human Development Index is similar to GDP. That is, they have high correlation. Those with high GDP per capita usually also have high HDI. And in the author's opinion, the best single number to measure a country's success is infant mortality. So it is interesting to me. Infant mortality is the numbers of infant death in the first years of life among 1,000 births. And that is something that I never thought of.
Sorry, what is even death?
Sorry?
Even death? What is that?
Infant, yeah, infant.
Oh, infant. Oh, sorry, infant. Okay.
Yeah, so babies. Because in order to get the numbers to increase, there are so many other things that must work, like healthcare and then the education, nutrition, and so on. So it's a good proxy for the development of the country. So for example, the United States doesn't even rank in the top 25 in the world for infant mortality rate. So this number is quite surprising to me, and it's a good proxy, as he said. And another interesting thing is like electricity today. We have electricity so cheap. So compared to 1900, the year 1900, today in 2020s, the price of electricity has dropped by like 2,000 times, something around that. So it drops a lot. Another thing, surprising thing that I learned is today we have a lot of enthusiasm about EV or electric vehicles. People want to buy electric cars and so on. But according to the author, actually, most of the electricity for supplying the electric cars are actually still from carbon or fossil fuels. So the purpose of buying electric cars is to reduce the carbon footprint. We want to reduce the carbon on the atmosphere. So we do not, people try not to use the gasoline cars, but actually the electricity that supply the electric vehicles are still from fossil fuel. 60% of them varies by country. That's another interesting thing. And also another one is our world today is very much dependent on fossil fuel. Our convenience today, we can have this meeting with this electricity, we can go travel with car, we can fly to another place using airplane. All of this depend on fossil fuel. We can use plastic bottles for water. All these are from fossil fuel. So we might think that people want to reduce fossil fuel and reduce the climate effect, but actually behind the scene, fossil fuel is still very dominant, and there is still no alternative for it, especially in the production of the so-called 4 pillars of society. I'm running out of time. 4 pillars of society, and that is cement, and then steel, ammonia. Ammonia is for fertilizer, and plastic. These four are very important for modern lives, and all of these require a huge amount of fossil fuels to produce, directly or indirectly. Right, so that's what I want to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Donald, for sharing your book. So, that's quite interesting number that you mentioned from the book. And actually, after hearing your presentations, it turned out that Tesla car is actually not that environmentally friendly eventually. Actually, maybe I'm curious, what is the main reason people buy electric cars nowadays? Maybe do you have any idea? Is it because of coolness, or is there any other reason in your opinion?
Yeah, thank you, Fajar. So I think most people do not look beneath the surface. So on the surface, we do not use gasoline, right? So that means we do not use fossil fuel directly. And most people do not look at the indirect things. Indirectly, the electricity are still produced by fossil fuel, but most people don't see that deep. Actually, that's one purpose of the book, is to uncover all these things beneath the surface. Another example I just remember from Fajar's question is wind turbine. Wind turbine is one of the most celebrated source of renewable energy because you use wind, and wind is very renewable. But actually, the machine and the proper everything is actually still based on fossil fuel. The transportation, so just about everything is still based on fossil fuel. So it's like, yeah, almost no effect actually. Again, all these are beneath the surface because on the surface we see, oh, the electricity is generated by wind, a renewable resource. I think that's my answer.
Okay, so if in Indonesia we have UUD, ujung-ujungnya duit, in energy, ujung-ujungnya oil, ujung-ujungnya coal. Right? Any others people who want to ask question to Donald?
Yes, I have a question. Donald, what is the most shocking fact that you uncover from this book?
That's my type of question. Usually I ask this question. Yeah. The most shocking fact. Maybe not the most shocking, but the most inspiring for me. The most inspiring one is the story about how the 1880s is the most, or to be more direct, is how Thomas Edison invented the phonograph. Before there was gramophone, there was phonograph. Phonograph is the first time ever that someone recorded voice and can be replayed later. Today we take it for granted, but actually back then it was like magic. And Edison invented this by combining two technologies. The first one is telegraph, and the second one is telephone. Actually, the first patents, he hold 1,000 plus patents. The first patents of Thomas Edison were all in telegraph. And then later telephone were invented by Alexander Graham Bell. And then Edison combined these two to invented something new. So he was thinking, what if I use the needle from the telegraph to write to this media for magnetic media, and then try to replay it on the speaker like telephone. So he combined these two ideas. And then he was very surprised to hear that the voice he just recorded replayed perfectly, and it scared him. I'm always scared with something that worked perfectly the first time, he said. So it's like magic. Imagine you said something a few seconds ago, now a few minutes ago, now you can replay it exactly the same. So it's the most inspiring part in the book. It means that if we want to get something new, we must explore. Phonograph, again, is invented from combination of telegraphs. All the patents about telegraph are forgotten now. But this became the basis for the new invention, novel invention, by combining these two. So we must explore things, and then we must combine these things to come up with something new, and we must experiment. So that's the most inspiring part for me.
Okay, any
Thank you.
other who want to ask question?
Donald, what made you choose this book?
Thank you for the question. I chose this book because it gives us, or give me, the facts beneath the surface. Usually we only read the news. In the news, we only get the surface, but beneath the surface, there are many things that we do not know. And this book uncover many of those. There are many, again, 71 stories, and I can share only very little. So it helps me understand how the things in the world works below the level of the news that usually we consume. So that's the motivation why I read this book.
No. Thanks, Donald. I just downloaded the book and hope that I will enjoy reading this too. Thank you.
Thank you. If I might give a suggestion, a better book to start with is not this one, but the previous one, which is How the World Really Works by the same author, Smith, because that one is more foundational, I think, more foundational. And then on top of that, we can read this book for additional facts.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Any other who want to ask question? Otherwise, we will continue to the next speaker. All right. I think maybe there is no more. Overall, in the impression that I get from the book is that this book teach us about the other sides of the world, and it's explained by some metrics, yeah, some measure, maybe like the infant mortality rate, and then what is that? The GDP, and then apa itu? Index GNH, gross national happiness, etc. So it's quite interesting, and maybe we can explore that on our own after we download the book. All right, I think that's all for today for Donald's session. Yeah, so thank you very much. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is Mita. Is Mita here? Mita is not here, yeah, so we will skip her. Steven, are you ready, Steven?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so the time is yours, Steven.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Today I will present. I'm sorry if I'm new at this, so I think what Matt told me is the questions are the book overview, why you choose it, and what's your take from the book, right? The questions. Okay, so I this book is about the Bung Karno, Penyambung Lidah Rakyat. I think every history buff knows about this book, Indonesian history buff. It's a book about Sukarno's own autobiography, told to a columnist, a writer called Cindy Adams from America. Well, I chose this book because of my personal sentiment of Bung Karno. For me, I'm a big fan of his, even though I know he has some downsides. Well, he was a dictator. He was a very good person. He fought for our independence. He had love for his people, but he was also a dictator and a womanizer. So, so it's interesting to see how what who was Bung Karno in his era? How did he become that? How did he become a Bung Karno, a Sukarno, a leader? My key takeaway from the book, first of all, I think Bung Karno is was a very rare person in his era. He received good education, right? But he didn't use his education for the benefit of himself. He could have worked at, let's say, a company, a Dutch company, right? And make a good money for himself. But rather than that, he sacrificed that benefit to fight against the colonial government. So I think he surpassed himself in a way, because he could have been he could have been living a very good life, but instead he was imprisoned many times. He fought hard for the independence of his people, and there's not many people. His idea of a united nation was just very revolutionary in that time. Not many people in Indonesia, especially in that era, not a lot of people thought about that. And second of all, our struggle against the colonialism and revolution. Our revolution was very, very hard, bloody. We pour our sweat and tears into it until we become Indonesia, what is Indonesia right now. So I think that's something to appreciate we take it for granted. Of course, we live in Indonesia. We are Indonesian citizen. We have government. We have everything. We have infrastructures, but we forget about how it became, how this country was built by our founding fathers, such as Sukarno. And the third thing I took from the book, Sukarno is a very complex person. He was a genius. He was very ahead of his time, but he also had some negative side inside of him. He was a leader, but he was a narcissistic leader. But of course, if I think about it, a lot of great leaders, dictator, even like Hitler was a good leader. I don't deny that. He was a dictator. He was a narcissistic leader. He had the ultra nationalistic view. And Sukarno, I could say that he was a very nationalistic person, and he was narcissistic. He was a womanizer. He loved being around women. I think that's part of the reason. I don't really I look at Cindy Adams' career, and actually she wasn't just a columnist, a gossip columnist. I don't think someone like her is worthy of making a autobiography for a president. But of course, because she was beautiful in that era, and that's why Sukarno wants her to write the autobiography. So when I think about that, well, I like Sukarno, but I also don't deny that he's not perfect. And I think that's one of the things that we need to learn today, because I remember one person I saw on TV. He said something like this. I translate to English: a dictator kills your courage, but a prophet kills your logic. So you have to see, like me, I like Sukarno, but I also don't deny he's just a person. When he doesn't make a decision, he has to go out. So I think that's relevant to our political situation right now. We just had election. And what's the third one? What are the questions again?
What are the key takeaway from the book?
Yeah, I think those three are my takeaway from the book. So is there any question?
Okay, is there any question that any of you would like to ask, please? Actually, I think I only learned a little bit. I mean, I learned not much about Sukarno when I was in school, but after reading more history, it turned out that in the past Indonesia was apa itu? Terminus apa? What is the English word? But it's
Tumultuous.
Turmoil.
yeah. So basically, Indonesia is not stable at all. There were like economic crisis, and then there is war. Oh yeah, actually, my question is that what is the main reason Sukarno decided to invade Malaysia, although eventually it stopped? I still don't get it until now. Do you know?
My understanding was Sukarno was really against colonialism and Western power. He was also against capitalism, because I think in his idea, what he calls neo-colonialism, I think what we have right now, we live in a capitalist world. Sukarno didn't want that. So the British left Malaysia, but they invented the Federation of Malaysia, in which like seven kingdoms in Malaysia, sultanates in Malaysia become one, united as one. But of course, it's meant to be for the British to be a very capitalistic country. They adopt Western ideas, and Sukarno didn't want that. So that's why he invaded Malaysia, because in his thoughts that it's just what do you call it? Negara Boneka. I don't know what's called in English. Do you know
Puppet
anyone?
state.
Puppet Nation.
Puppet Nation. Sorry. Yeah, Puppet
Puppet
Nation.
state.
Puppet State. I think that's one of the reason Sukarno, because he really doesn't like the Western ideas. But of course, you can look at more reference, because if we're talking about history, that's more, you know, everyone can have their own interpretation.
Okay, so thank you very much. As far as I know, Sukarno was considered as a rebellious leader during that time by the USA and its allies. Uh, so maybe that's why that there's a coup, but there's another chapter later on. Anyway, there is a question. Stephen, would you agree that many successful leaders of the world with super complex situation like ours has somewhat megalomania tendency in the chat? Do you agree with that?
Imung, can you explain to me what is megalomania tendency first?
Yeah, it's hard to explain this, but I mean, if you are just plain leader with plain leadership, it won't work. You know, like maybe the dictatorship, for example, or self-inflated blades. Yeah, yeah, that's true, Pipit. And egocentric somewhat, you know. Yeah.
Okay. I think for a leader, every leader, I think, even in the like business world, they need to have this ego or narcissistic that comes in a positive way. They believe in themselves. They want to fight hard. They fight for what they believe. But of course, the bigger you get, you let's say you rule Indonesia. This is a big nation, and the more complex the situation, and I think that brings this tendency, this egotistical, what you call megalomania tendency, out of them, because they, I think they will have a lot of many complex problems every single day, every single minute in their life, and they need to have that. They need to have that belief that I am the one that can, I'm the only one that can solve this problem. Because I think if the leader doesn't believe it in himself, I think if a leader doubt himself, how can you expect his subordinate to believe in him? But of course, I think it's a complex human situation, right? We are not perfect, so we tend to be corrupt. We tend to be, well, I don't know how to say it, but it's just we tend to corrupt ourselves. That's what my take is. But of course, I think every leader has to have that egotistic, self-inflated belief. And I think Sukarno has that. Yeah, yeah. I think Sukarno has. So one of the reason I said that because Muhammad Hatta actually stopped being vice president in the middle in the mid 60s or something. He gave Sukarno a fair chance to do what he thinks is right. But of course, Muhammad Hatta was becoming a position for Sukarno, and after that, Muhammad Hatta always challenged Sukarno, criticized Sukarno, because it's wrong. What he did was wrong. What he did, uniting nationalism, religion and communism is a wrong thing to do. Muhammad Hatta already reminded him of that, but he didn't listen, and that's what brings him down at the end.
Okay, I think there is a quote related to that. The quote says that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
And it seems true in many example around the country, around the world. Yeah, like in China and in Middle East.
Can I have a comment on that, Fajar?
Yes, please.
Oh.
There is a question from Edo.
Oh, okay.
Edu, please.
Yeah, does Sukarno decision to turn Indonesia into a kind of democracy is due to his corrupted personality in his later life? It sounds like the opposite of democracy. I think what Sukarno, well, this is where his ego comes in. Used to be Indonesia was in a parliamentary democracy, right? So everything is decided by the parliament. President is just a symbol, was just a symbol at that time. But after that, because nothing happened, nothing was fixed in that, nothing was solved in that era. So I think Sukarno took it to himself that because he believed, I am the one that can solve everything in this country. I am the one that can feed the hungry people. Well, and of course, if you say it sounds like the opposite of democracy, yes, it's the opposite of democracy. And I think Indonesia is always on the path of searching the right democracy for ourselves. Until today, I can say that's my opinion. Until today, I don't think. Well, we say we are democracy, but I think we're still searching for our own democracy. Yes, Pipit. He
Oh yes.
claimed.
Yeah. So I read about this about the guided democracy. That time, Sukarno conceived the idea after he met Mao Zedong in China. So he saw Mao Zedong as his role model, how he became the father of the nation, decide everything for everyone. Then he wanted to make himself like Mao Zedong, basically. And then his justification that time was, well, in Indonesia, it has always been like this. This is our local wisdom. In villages, the decisions of the whole village is taken by the elders, right? Like the group of, bunch of men decide
Yeah.
for everyone. So he saw himself as the elder of this village somehow. So I think that was the guided democracy. But I have a question for Stephen.
Yeah.
The fact that he could not choose between capitalism, communism, religion, and he tried to incorporate it, even our local wisdom that birthed Pancasila, all of these things, right? Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that he cannot decide on just one woman? He's just like a playboy, right? He cannot decide which one is a blah. So he just wants the best of everything and he cannot decide on one. He wants to somehow idealistically want to combine everything.
I think if if you look at our situation, what Indonesia is right now, Indonesia is like a magical country. I can say that because we used to identify ourselves as Batak, Jawa, Bali, Dayak, Bugis, and everything, even China, Arab, and so on. So we don't really have an identity for ourselves. We don't have any ideology for ourselves. Well, let's say Japanese. Whatever happens, they will be united because they are the same. Everyone from the northern part into the southern part, they are the same. But with ourselves, Sukarno was trying to search for something that unites the people, right? And that's where I think that's where it goes wrong. It somehow goes wrong. It doesn't fail completely because we are still one nation, but I think the unity in that is very fragile. Even at that time where Sukarno wants the nationalists, religion and communism to become one, well, you see, communism, they want to get Indonesia, they want to build Indonesia, Soviet Indonesia. The religious Muslim, mostly, they want to build Islamic Republic. The nationalistic wants to have either federal country or democracy or republic or so on. So what I think Sukarno, he faced a dilemma at that time, and I don't think that it falls to one person to decide that, and I don't think that's right. So of course he goes wrong. Everything went wrong after that, but it doesn't fail completely because we are still one nation. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, maybe very last question.
Yep.
Overall, is it, although eventually Sukarno was kicked out of the government, if Sukarno continue his presidency, is it a good thing? Or is it better for him to eventually kick off out of the presidency?
Well, that's a what if question, yeah. I think if Sukarno still continues his rules, Indonesia will be bankrupt. That's for sure. Because that was the fact. He was trying to get Indonesia to really embrace the idea of independence in the sense of economic independence. So everything, free trade, industrialization. I don't think that will be available in Indonesia because that was after Sukarno. He opposed Westerners' idea. I think what Pipit says, he was meeting Mao Zedong in China, right? And Mao Zedong, I read about him once. He was a good leader, but he was also someone that always, it's about ideology all the time, ideology. And the result of that is his people get hungry, right? And I think that's what Sukarno is going to do. So I think Sukarno is better after he fought for our independence, right? He fought for his people. After that, I don't think he knows how to rule, how to get this country. I think he's too ideology. He's too ideology. He's always talking about ideology, not about the prosperity of the people, which is the economic. We're talking about economic here. How to feed the hunger, how the people can have houses. Yep, I think that's it.
All right. Actually, I also agree.
I think we would have
eventually
been by the US.
So US participate in that coup by the CIA, but yeah, maybe that's better. Anyway, yeah, I think we would have invaded by US, we would be Vietnam 2.0. Yeah, it's kind of scary. All right. Let's continue to thank you very much, Stephen, for sharing the book.
Thank you.
So we can learn more about Sukarno and his achievement and his past. Mita is here. Wait, yeah. It was supposed to be her turn. Where is it? Let me see. Um, Hello, Mita. Are you here?
Yeah, sorry for coming late. I just returned from my parents' house. Can you hear me?
Okay. By the way, are you ready to deliver your book, or would you like to go next turn?
It's okay. I can do it now if everyone else has done their part.
Okay. So yeah, we have just finished Steven's session. So without further ado, so let's welcome Mita. So the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I came late. So the book that I'm holding is the book for Badass Woman by Harriet Dyer. And it says here, because the patriarchy won't smash itself. So the reason I'm talking about this book, because this is one of the references I'm using for working on my second book, Conscious Leaders, Leading with Compassion by Serving Others. As I realize we don't have enough female leaders, and we just recently celebrated International Women's Day, and I watched YouTube with Bu Sri Mulyani, Bu Retno Marsudi, Mbak Najwa Shihab on YouTube talking about women and how we are in the workplace. And they said that to be equal with men, it will take us 100 years according to research done by United Nations. So it also confirms the funding from PIPIT when she shared that women joined the university 750 years later after a man, and we couldn't work before. We had to disguise as men to be able to work. So I realized that for women, that's why I feel that since young it's so easy for me to see my male counterparts to work, to have a family, but for women it's like always a juggling process, and it's like amongst women the problems are more complex and complicated than the problems I heard from men. It's probably stereotype, but because of the YouTube I watch, based on United Nations, it takes 100 years for women to be equal as men in the world. So even I will die, we're still not equal. So this is just a little bit of my part for contributing to the equality. And the book is so colorful, red, white, and the black text, and it has a lot of good quotes. The one that I love the most is the beginning. It says, "Do not live someone else's life and someone else's idea of what womanhood is. Womanhood is you. Womanhood is everything that's inside you." That's one quote I love. And what I got from the book as well that I'm copying in my second book is it includes the titles of the songs that could generate confidence and generate the power amongst the girls. For example, the book says that sing yourself confident and give several titles of the song such as Titanium by David Guetta, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, Stronger, What Doesn't Kill You by Kelly Clarkson. So it's a good thing. So on my second book, I'm planning to find the titles of some songs that are related to women and leadership as well. I have to probably uh, research more because the new songs of the Generation Z now are different from the songs from my generation. So I have to talk to the Generation Z and asking for the recommendation. What kind of songs that are related to the Generation Z, to women and leadership? Maybe one of you can give me some ideas later on. And another one that I got from uh, my experience as a woman is that our number obsession, if I talk to a woman across generation, is I want to find Mr. Right, I want to get married, I want to have children. But the problem later on when we have children, we realize that, oh, it's not as easy as people say to raise children, to work in the office, to be a wife. As one of the famous kebaya expert, Anna Avianti, says, in Indonesia, for a woman to be successful at work, it's not due to the education level or the network, etc. But the number one key factor for a successful woman at the workplace is the husband they choose. And it happens to me. If you have a supporting husband, they will encourage you to study, they will let you to work. But if you have a patriarchal system in Indonesia, which is very harsh on the woman's being able to work and also going to study until like PhD or leaving a family for a year for getting scholarship abroad. That's gonna be a challenging matter. So my advice in probably in my book for the woman also wherever I go, choose your partner who can support your work and also your study, because that's a key factor in Indonesia. And here, Gloria Steinem is quoted by the author. It says that far too many people are looking for the right person instead of trying to be the right person. And her advice is focus on you, focus on you, focus on you. So that's why when I see women who are in trouble, like in a divorce situation, they have to co-parent, they have conflicts with the family of the former spouse. I always say focus on you first, earn money for you and for your retirement, because you don't have a spouse who's supporting you. Your parents are going to die, and then focus on your children, but you got to focus on yourself. First, your safety, because women's safety is also still questionable in many countries. In Indonesia, maybe not as dangerous as in India, for example. And then focus on your health, because as we get older, we are getting more illness. We can get Alzheimer, we can get osteoporosis as women. We have to go through menopausal, etc. And then focus on your happiness, because as a woman, we are tend to have more depression than men. So here the book says trust your gut, because we are gifted by intuition. And the last advice that the author says from the book is empowered woman, empower woman. So you cannot empower other people if you're not empowered. And since our journey is still 100 years away, so I think the number one is that we need to empower ourselves first as women, and then after we empower others. So focus on you, women. Focus on you first. And if I give a rating, I would give this book a 4 out of 5, because it takes me only 30 minutes to finish. It's colorful, it has songs, and I recommend people to read this. Yeah, you don't have to own it, you can borrow it. It's a good book. And for my critic, I don't see the picture of the author here, because most of the books, they include the pictures and the informations of the author, but not in this book. So it would be better if I could see the picture and the information of the author in this book. I think that's all. And back to you, our moderator, Fajar.
Okay, thank you very much, Paramita, for sharing your book. So basically, it is a book about the stories of successful women and maybe some advice around that. All right. So anyone would like to ask question? This is kind of sensitive. Well, it can be sensitive, depends. So anyone, any of you would like to ask questions? Okay, I guess I will start with the first question. My question is, this book is written by a woman from Western society. So how relatable this book compared to women in Indonesia? Because we have different culture. What is your opinion about that?
Any woman would like to comment on that question or respond? Pipit or Mbak Imung? No? Okay. When Fajar, I'm sorry, but when you brought it up, your question reminded me of Putin in his propaganda always focuses on West versus East, West versus East, West versus East. But I don't know. I went to United States when I was 16 as an exchange student, and I got along fine. I was okay. I think for me, rather than having the paradigm of West, Western, Eastern, I have two mantra, two S, synchronize and synergize. So we need to ask ourselves, how could we synchronize the Western culture and the Eastern culture? How could we synthesize? That's the question that we need to ask first. And the second one, if you already able to synchronize and synthesize, how could we synergize the Western and the Eastern culture? And when your paradigm is synergizing both culture, you get more than 1 + 1 = 2. You get 1 + 1. Western and Eastern culture becomes 1,000. Becomes something that is unique, crispy, and beneficial for both sides. I think that's my answer. So our job as a woman in Indonesia, how can I synergize this theory into my life? And since we all know that we are 100 years behind the man to be equal, and it's worldwide, it's global, it's universal. So how could I use this theory to add value into my life to make me able to be better woman? For me, focus on me. I focus on me first. I take care of my health. When I'm healthy, I can take others. I take care of others. When I'm sick, I'm in the hospital. What good am I? Nothing. If I'm not happy, happy mothers, happy children, happy wives, happy husband. It's true. It's ask Donald. If your wife is not happy, are you happy, Donald? If your wife has a PMS, being galau and or grumpy, are you happy? No. And also, my son, if I'm not happy, I'm sad, crying, he's also crying. So it's like everything is holistic. You cannot say if woman is happy, the rest is miserable. It's not true. So I think this really helpful for me that beside being a martyr, we need to focus on us because the benefit can be felt by people around us, I think. Yeah, and I think here I got comments from Mbak Imung. You are responsible for your own happiness regardless gender. Yes. Yes. So and also the success of women should be free from any factors. I mean it's okay for Mbak Imung to disagree. But I think for example, if you are married and then your husband doesn't allow you to study for postgraduate degree or for any degree or to be even in bucoholics, and you are dying to be in bucoholics but you're not allowed to. So
Divorce. Okay.
I think in this case there is a factor of this woman to be successful in study based on if the husband agrees or not. Because when I got scholarship for my postgraduate degree, I'm sorry, my ex-husband didn't like it. So I couldn't go to school every week, which is a weekend class. I had to get his permission first. Otherwise, I couldn't go. Even though it's a scholarship, he didn't pay anything. So that's one example. I'm using my personal example. But luckily, I could study until the end of the semester, the end of the years, and also for work. I remember when I was still married, I had a project of training 700 people with other trainers, Mas Arfan Pradiansyah, the LLM boss, and he asked us to have a briefing in the training place the night before the training. But my ex-husband did not want me to go because he was jealous of Mas Arfan, I think. Uh, and so I couldn't get the project. Mas Arfan said, that's funny. I let my wife to be in other job-related activities, and even our boss, Mita, previous boss in DDI, Mbak Meka, went to Italy when she just had when her baby was only 7 months old, and it's okay. What I mean, there are many things that I couldn't work. Even by training, I can make 3 days training equals amount of 1 month salary of my ex-husband, for example. But since I couldn't get the permission to go, I couldn't conduct the training. But now, so I think with Baimung, I want to say that's based on my personal experience. Choose your husband carefully because it can determine whether you can have postgraduate degree. It can determine whether you can make more money for your retirement. Because my concern is now is about retirement. I want to retire well. That's my goal this year. So that's the answer. Okay, you might not disagree, but that's just my personal opinion after 50 years being a woman. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all for maybe one very last. After that, we continue. The maximum is 210, yeah. After that, we are done. Okay, Stephen?
Yeah, I think I just want to comment on that, Miss Mita. What she said about choosing your partners carefully for women to ensure the success for women. I think that also applies to men. For me, yeah, I think also, and I speak again from she was just telling us the story about herself. I can draw that conclusion based on my personal experience. I haven't been married yet, but my father was a rascal. He got married 7 times. My mom actually was the first. They had me when I was when they were very young, but my father had everything to be successful. He was smart, he was strong, he was determined, he was ambitious, but every success that he had always comes down, he always went down when he had the, well, under quote, bad wife. So that actually, I think that also applies to men. When we choose our partner, when we choose the girl that we will marry, we have to choose carefully, of course, because maybe your wife cannot support you in your work. Maybe you're tired of you're tired, you're stressed out, and then you come home to find your wife grumpy and challenging you all the time. So I think it works both ways. So it's not just for women, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys?
There is a saying that every successful man, there is a supportive wife, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
So it's true for both ways, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's
But
all
sorry,
for,
guys,
yeah.
if you think of it, then
All
everything,
right.
parents also, siblings also, everything, friends.
They want if
Mhm.
both sides don't go into it.
Mm.
It takes two to tango.
Yep. So I have not married yet, so I cannot comment much. But I think that my
Go,
father's success
Fajar,
is
go.
also my father's success, yeah, is also helped supported by my mom as well. All right, I think that's all for Paramita's session, yeah. So thank you very much for bringing up this topic, Mita. So let's continue to the next one. The next one is what? The next one is Okla. Okla will talk about a thief.
Yep.
All right, so the time is yours, Okla.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let me see the questions. So I know we just read a book about, we discuss about the world and neo-capitalism and feminism. So it might comes as a culture shock reading my book. I'm sorry, but okay. So this book is called Steal Like an Artist, and the subtitle is 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative. Yeah, it's despite the title, it's not about stealing. It's about, let me see my notes. Yeah, it's a guide on how to get out from your creative block and into more productive state. So this book is a short book. It only have like 150 pages or less. And most of them are like doodles and some promotional material from the writers. But there are 10 sections, and each section gives me tips on how to become more productive, such as, let me read some of the section, is like write the books you want to read, and side project, hobbies are important, and do good work and share it with people, which is a good tips if you're working in such as a writer or maybe a photographer. It's important for you to share and have ideas taken from other people, but not take them and steal them. It's more like inspiration. It's different. It's not plagiarizing. This book also hates plagiarize. Do not do that. Although the title is very ambiguous, yeah, this book just some writer giving tips on how to become a better writer by taking inspirations instead of relying on being original and occasionally getting stuck. So I know some of us maybe in writing or maybe in some creative industries, and we try to become original. We try to become some great guy that invents something, but instead of doing that, maybe just take on what people like and improve on it better. It's a better idea, and it's still original and original in your area, but then nobody has done it, so why not? So I said it's inspiration, not copy. And the book really, really, really enforces you to read other people's work instead of having to plagiarize. So also you should really take inspirations from many inventors, many writers, instead of taking it from one. Because if you steal, why not just steal a lot, right? It's much more better that way. You get a lot more. But don't steal, just take inspiration. Again, I'm not enforcing you to steal. So why did I decide to read this book is because how relatable it is. How relatable it is in my age, I guess, mid 30s and all. It's just short and not time consuming, and it's understandable. And it's encouraging people to stay on track. It encourages me to always find that ideas by doing other things instead of your work. Try to become more productive by not being productive at your work, like do something else. But that something else gives you ideas. So not drinking, I guess. But also I don't like about this book is it has many unrelated texts. It feels like you're reading a Tumblr post. If you don't know Tumblr, it's like BuzzFeed. And if you don't know BuzzFeed, it's like Tribun Jatim. Just it really reads like an article, but it's a good article at least. So yeah, my key takeaway from the book is instead of focusing on what you do what you can. So if you're maybe if you're trying to get another hobbies, but still keep your first hobbies first instead of abandoning your first hobbies. Just try to manage both of them and see which one you like. It helps your life so you don't become confused and how you change your life. And try to keep your day job if you have a day job in if you wanted to do something else. Also, my key takeaway is write the story you want to read, which is one of the section in the book that says that if you want to write something good, if you want to make people see your photos or maybe you wanted to listen to your talking, try to talk the way you want it to be heard. Try to write the way you want it to be, the book that you want to read. And that is my key takeaway from this book, which I like. And also a very question, if you do the things that you like, is it always the best thing to do? Why not do the things that you can do? It's also a question, I guess. But you can discuss it with yourself with that thing, maybe. But that's all from me. Thank you. Hello?
Okay, so thank you very much, Ukla. Is it done?
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
Okay.
It's a really short book, but I like it.
I read it from the Amazon. It says that this is award nominee, so it seems that this book
Oh,
is quite
yeah.
good. What, in your opinion, what makes this book award nominee worthy?
The writing is good. It's understandable. Anyone can read it, I think. I gave it to someone in college and they understand it. And I guess since no one here is from high school, so I guess everyone can read it. But if you read it, give it to high school people. You should give it a translated one. I read it in English.
Okay, maybe a quick question. What do you think about, let's say, if there is someone who want to pursue to be an artist, but as you know that being an artist is a very competitive job. And maybe if I were the parent of the child, maybe I would say, why don't you just go to university and just do a regular job lah instead of become an artist, let's say. So what do you
Become an
think about that?
influencer or go to Yeah, I'm not a parent, but if I were the parent, I would still support his since it's not making any money, I would still support his hobbies or her hobbies to become an artist. But again, education is important. So I guess you have to do two of them. You can't pick, if you can't pick one, then do two of them. You have to manage. Because both of them are equally good, if I would say, if in my opinion, I shouldn't think one of them less because being an artist can also be a helpful job. Sometimes your voice matters. And I think without education, an artist is supposed to be looks, right? But it's not good for the public to understand that an artist is only looks. They have to become intelligent too. So you have to both. And it's the book also said it. If you want to become a writer, you should not quit your day job. You need to have a job, a stable income. Maybe if you have a family, or maybe even if you don't have a family, you need to eat, right? So you need to do both of them. You have all the time in the world, so you could try. Good luck.
Even many artists eventually they start to selling like uh, bebek goreng or
Oh
cooking
yeah.
business, or even some even try to become a legislative.
Oh, good luck with that.
Any
Uh,
other? Oh yeah, Imong asked a question.
Imung Ukla, what is one thing from the book that you take into developing your practical habit? Is to Well, to acknowledge that maybe I understand that I wanted to, in my job and in my hobbies, I need to understand that I'm not the person that I'm not pleasing other people. I try to please myself first. So for example, if I wanted to create some work, some documents, or maybe an essay, I need to think of it as writing to myself, which is very important advice, I think, for me, because I try to please people first, but then it's actually a bad habit. You need to please yourself first. You need to think of yourself first. And if you like it, then somebody will find it to like your work. I think does that answer your question, I guess? Okay.
Mita want to ask a question.
Okay.
Yes. Ukla, you remember that you mentioned that if you want to be an artist, you should get education. Don't we have IKJ, for example? That's a university for being an artist. Institut Kesenian Jakarta. We have ISI, Institut Seni
Yeah,
Indonesia.
yeah. I know easy.
So it means that it's not like being an artist versus being educated. They both can go together. And also about writing a book,
Yes.
based on my experience writing my first book, yes, I had another job. I also was a teacher, a coach, a trainer, and translator. And I was also, I am a minimalist lifestyle follower. So I sold my other house. I have, because I already have this house, a family's house, but I have another house that I bought under my name, and I decided to let go for my son's educations and my educations, my book project, and also for our health, and also for my retirement, etc. And that money that came from selling my house helped me to write my first book, because the first book was the longest, and Baimun criticized me. I was perfectionist. I was so scared because it was in spirituality genre, and my postgraduate was Islamic mysticism. If I continued until I finished my thesis, I would have got the degree Master Agama actually. But since I didn't finish my thesis and I made it a book, so I asked my spiritual leader, a sheikh from the United States, to get approval, because I cannot sell a spiritual book without an approval from a spiritual leader. And I had to be careful, because what I'm teaching is universality, universalism, and pluralism, something that is not well known. But it started with Cak Nur, actually, the Paramadina Foundation. This is esoteric part of religion. So I agree with you. I think you should have some savings. If you don't have a job, you have to have a saving, or you have to have another income. But the second book is easier, because I sold my book alone. I self-published it. So now I'm getting sponsors for my publications. I still self-publish, but the sponsor pays for the printing, for everything. But I still sell them myself too, because I'm avoiding the copyright headache. I don't want my copyrights, the intellectual property, belong to Gramedia, to Mizan, or to other publishing. And I don't want my book to be, what do you call that, plagiarized, which is one of the challenge of the artist and the book authors. So I agree with you about having another income and family support also. So everything, and I think in life, it's good if you have different kinds of income, not just when you are an artist, or you are a book writer. Even if you work in the company 9 to 5, I think it's good if you have a moonlighting job that gives you, or it's good that if you have passive income coming from buying stocks. Or I recommend buying stocks because my chef recommended to buy stocks, or having a property that you can rent out. You can list as a passive income. So it's not strict to being an artist that you have to have another income. I think any kinds of jobs, if you can have a passive income, or you have 100 sources of income, That is a good life, I think. So that's my advice. Everybody should do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone? Otherwise, we will continue.
Yeah, I have a question for Ukla. So what is your favorite example of getting inspiration and starting something new? Right? So still like an artist, as you mentioned, we find inspiration, and then based on that inspiration, you can start something new. Is there a story, a favorite story from the book that you can share with us?
A story. Oh, I think it's so many. But the story is
Yeah,
so
example.
he kind of went to the mall. Yeah, that's it. He kind of went to the mall, and this guy is a writer, but it only writes from newspaper clippings. He tried to do that and become an artist from there. But he goes to the mall and he her mother bought her a book. And it all starts from there. I think the most simplest story from that because it kind of reminds me of me too, because I like reading books because uh my I don't know who bought it the book, but I don't remember. But it started from someone buying me a book and giving it to me, and then I started to, oh my God, this is so fun. It's the inspiration comes from the like little thing. And it's all from there. I think the story is that simple. I don't see, I'm sorry, there's no other interesting stories like maybe Alexander Graham Bell inventing something, but no, the most that catches me is that one. The simplest thing in life could be the most inspiration that you'd ever get.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think maybe because we have other two speakers, so we will continue. Thank you very much, Ukla. Interesting book.
Welcome.
So still the idea, but not plagiarize.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is Imo.
No, I don't have a book to
Oh,
because
sorry.
I'm still in the middle of, I read books, not one and finish, but I read few books parallelly. So I put there menyimak means that it's not the title of the book. Yeah.
Sorry, I forget. Hadir menyimak. So let's explain. Please
Thanks,
share about
Fajar.
hadir menyimak, anak-anak. Just kidding. Uh, I guess Edo first, then.
Okay. Okay. So the book that I would like to bring is the title is Adventures of a Young Naturalist by David Attenborough. If you like to watch BBC Wild or you must be stumbled upon his video, you know which this person is. Is to me it's like one of my favorite living person. So in this book, it tells his story during his youngster, where he's a young producer in the BBC. At the time, he has an idea of making a program where instead of at the time the television is not like today. So most of the program in the television is a live television since video recording is such an expensive feat at the time. So he proposed for a very daring program at the time. So instead of just uh, giving the audience the pictures of animals that they take from the zoo, from the London Zoo to the studio, how about funding to an expedition where they will record an activity of catching a wild animal. So this is sounds like an unethical thing today, like where you send a expedition where you catch a wild animal to be put into a zoo, because nowadays most of the animal in the zoo is those that is breeding in the zoo and trading all across the zoo over the world. But the practice of getting a wild animal from their habitat into a zoo is something unethical today. So this book kind of give a glimpse of a story. It takes place in the 1950s, where where everything is a lot different than today. The places that they used to explore is much more wild than today, and all the situation is like uh, it's like so different. All the regulation, all the bureaucracy of all is different than today. So it's kind of a one of its kind of an adventure story. So if you really like the story of old adventures like the scrambling for Africa adventures or the Amazon adventures of the early 20th century, this is the right kind of story for you. So this book tells mainly three stories. First from the Guyana, second story is from the Indonesia, his experience in Indonesia, and the third is from the Brazil. This story takes place during the last years of the British Empire. So if you know that the British Empire is also sometimes synonymous with expedition, where they go all around the world, taking all the artifact, all the animal, all the things from all across the world and put it into their own museum or their own zoo or their own botanical garden. So this is a part of that era. So the first story he tells about going for the Guyana. At the time, the Guyana is still a part of the still part of the British Empire. So everything's going smooth. It's a very pleasing adventures. All the people is accommodating. They meet a lot of the people. There is no issue with the language, even though the people they're speaking some kind of pidgin English, but at least they can understand each other. They go into the hinterland of the Guyana, looking for the wild animals. They are trading with the local people, trading and it sounds really strange for us today because like they can go to a village, then by giving uh, bead some glass beads, they can get some wild animal like capybaras or the anteaters or the even some kind of crocodiles and big snake at the time. And then my most favorite part of the book is his expedition in Indonesia. So about a third of this book consists of his story in Indonesia. And from this book, I know that the situation in Indonesia is a lot of different back then and today. First, and the first they told about how they managed to plan their expedition in Indonesia. Initially, they do not take so much care on the planning on Indonesia, but turns out it's a really complex things to do. A lot of bureaucracy, so it's kind of anecdotal to us. And the way that David Attenborough tells his story is a very elegant, but also very witty and very funny in his own style of storytelling, like the one where he hosted the TV programs, and this is also how he write the books. It's a really fun and enjoyable story. So in Indonesia, when the first impression when he visit Indonesia is the bureaucracy. So he need to get a lot of paper, all of the paper from all the ministry, all the military, all the police, all the government. So first he come to Jakarta. Instead of he planned for that he can right away go to Bali because his main target is to go to Komodo Island. Komodo Island back then is so different than today. It is a lot unknown to the people, and people like avoiding this island. So the situation is a lot of different. Komodo Island back the Komodo today we see the video, or if you ever go to Komodo Island, that the animals is plentiful. We can even saw them in beach in everywhere. But back then Komodo is a very mysterious creature. It's something that dwell in the forest of the island of Komodo, and it takes a lot of patience to find them in their native habitat at the time. And there is also very little specimen that go out of this island that can go to the zoo of the world. So it's still a very mythical creature. But so the story told from the from Jakarta, where he tells the official that he's going to make a video for animals, but instead the government at the time keep pushing him to go to Borobudur. So like he kind of confused that we come here to Indonesia solely for the purpose of uh, taking a video of wild animal. Why you keep always pushing us to go to Borobudur at that time? But turns out this government official is trying to promote the tourism in Indonesia, and at the time they start to promoting the Borobudur. So it's kind of like it's a funny situation where they keep pushing around, and at the time that the team that the expedition team of the David Attenborough finally concede that okay, they will accept this offer from from this official to go to Borobudur and then back again to Jakarta just so that they can get the paper approved. And even that it also takes them time because they need to wait for weeks just to go from one official to other official. And one of the remarkable story that he tells to me is how he can summarize the our Indonesian situation at the time. So he go to an official, and the official promised them that if they go to in 2 weeks, they will get all the papers down. Then he tell the official why we need to wait for 2 weeks, and the officials tell him that because it is because in a few days they will have an Idul Fitri holiday season. And why it takes 2 weeks? Because in the next week after the holiday, after the Idul Fitri, they will have the Pentecost Sunday. Then David Attenborough kind of curious. I think this country is a Muslim country. Why you celebrate Pentecost Sunday? Then uh, the officials tell him that because when we get our independence, we ask for holiday for all the religion, and our leader accepted. So this sentence kind of summarized the situation of Indonesian independence, the situation of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika in such a it's such an anecdotal sentence. This is what I like about how he tells the story. Then the story continues to Surabaya, where he met some of the British there that helped him to arrange his expedition to Borneo and also to Komodo Island. His next expedition is to Borneo, where he go to Samarinda. Then from there he went through the Mahakam River upstream, where he visit some of the Dayak settlement there, and also living in their long houses. Uh, at the time, he's trying to trade with the local people, that asking them bring whatever animal that you can bring from your forest, and I will pay you. And they only pay with cigarette and salt at the time. So it's something that is really strange for us today, that they can trade exotic animals only with a cigarette. There is a point where he lived in a long house, in the Dayak long house, and at the time he's still not getting any animals. He tried to look for some exotic birds, and in the kitchen of that long house he found some plumes of a rare bird, the great quail. and and David at the time told with the woman there, why you killed this bird? Because we are hungry. The woman replied, but you can trade it with us. I can give you salt and cigarette. Yeah, but we are hungry, the woman kept saying at that time. So he tried to persuade the local to get them the animals. First is just centipede and millipede, some insect, and then the next day more people coming with them with animal. Some coming with the bear, with a bear that is only a few days old, and the bear is only traded with with a two stick of cigarette. And on his way back to Samarinda, he go to hunter's house at the time, and this hunter recently catch an orangutan that is only 2 years old, and this orangutan is only traded by like 3 sticks of cigarette and a salt and a pack of salts. It's a really strange to hear for us today. And then his adventure continues to the Komodo Island. He tried to find a boat that can sail by the Komodo Island, but at the time in his stays in Surabaya, he cannot find any shipping that is passing through this island. It's and finally they get information if they can fly to Makassar, then go to they can go to Maumere in the Flores Island, where where from the Flores Island they could ride a car to the westernmost of the island and then find some boat to Komodo Island. But at the time he kind of gets scammed. It's either a scam or just a misunderstanding, because at the time in the entire Flores Island there is only one car that is available, a lorry. But at the time the lorry itself is also not suitable for their 200 miles travel to the westernmost of the island. So instead they try to find a boat, and the owner of the lorry tried to help him to get a boat and also with the captain. And because at the time they already know their intention, they need to pay a very expensive amount to get the boat chartered. And also this adventure in the boat is turned out to be a, a very near miss adventure. The captain turns out to be not to be a fisherman, and the captain refused to tell what he actually is. They cannot even navigate through the sea. They will spend like more than 1 week floating in the sea without a navigator. But luckily, after almost 2 weeks, they they reached the bay of the Komodo Island that time. The situation will be a lot different. Looking at how they tell the story, it is like a very near miss story, that it is really possible that at the time he is killed or drowned in the island during his way from the Flores to the Komodo Island. Then the key takeaway that I get from this book is that the world is fascinating. Go on adventures. I think that is what I can tell about this book.
Okay, thank you very much, Edo. Uh, okay, anyone? Maybe one or two question max.
Yes, Edo. I'm just curious, why do many foreigners write books about traveling in Indonesia, and they always have interesting stories to tell about our country? And on the other hand, I don't find many books talking about Indonesia, about traveling all over Indonesia, about the interesting stories of each culture from Indonesian authors. Why is that? I don't understand.
Yeah, maybe from my opinion, because for the foreigners, especially in the early and a half 20th century, Indonesia or the Indies is considered a mythical place. You find Bali, the one that is like the old kingdom, that is one of its kind, the one that you cannot uh, find in a continent place. And also you got to have really wild places like the Borneo, and also the Lesser Sunda Islands. We get the animals that is not occurring in any other place, in any other part of the world. And compared with other places like the Southern America as well, Indonesia is much more developed and much more navigable compared to that places, because we have a long history of civilization here. So it's kind of like both touched and untouched. So you can go from a very urbanized, even squalor city, and then you go to a very wild places. And as for the Indonesian itself, maybe because we experience it every day, it is something that we know, and it is something that not so fascinating for us. That's why the fascinating stories come more from the foreigner rather than from the Indonesian itself.
Okay, anyone else? Do you what?
My question in the chat box.
Okay, Pipit's near-death experience. Yes, he have in Indonesia first he contracted malaria in Borneo. So malaria at that time is considered to be among most lethal tropical diseases, the one that the foreigner really try to avoid because the high chance of death is really high, and he faced it not in somewhere where he can access medical help easily. He contacted in the interior of the Borneo. And then the second near death experience is where he sailed with what supposed to be a fisherman that is familiar with the places. He traveled with some strange men that do not even know the name of the island, cannot navigate through the sea, and cannot not even know where the coral reef is situated. So he spent like 2 weeks floating in the Flores Sea with no one that can help, and there is some situation where he go through a shallow reef where his boat is almost capsized, and it's considered very lucky for them that they can actually go to the Komodo Island and return to Java.
So it's funny, the near-death experiences both were in Indonesia, yeah, not in other countries.
Yes, both is in Indonesia.
I found it amazing. He's 97 years old. I think he's very lucky, right? Because he's 97. He has been all over the world in many extreme parts of the world, but he still managed to survive. And I think he's
Yeah.
very lucky because he must face a lot of near-death experiences.
Yes, even like Steve Irwin is not so lucky, but he's older than he born earlier than Steve Irwin and also lived longer than him. And in this book, by the way, he's still in his 20s. And recently, it is told that all the story that is told in this book has the original colored film tape found in the archive of the BBC. But so far, I cannot find the footage. Only some trailer from the BBC YouTube. Maybe it is only screened for the local audience in England. This is still one that I really curious about. I still want to see it somewhere. I'm still looking for the footage.
All right, I think maybe that's all. Yeah, he's 97 years old and still very productive as well. So amazing guy overall. All right, thank you very much for bringing up uh, David Attenborough, and thank you very much. So let's continue to the last speaker, Pipit.
Okay, so I'm reading Witness to History series. The last one was the French Revolution, and then the rise of Hitler, and then I'm now reading the Arab and Israeli conflict. But the one I'm going to talk about today is the rise of Hitler. So, wow. One thing I like to point out that I really like here is I probably can tell why Hitler became Hitler. So a lot of factors happen, right? When someone become extremely cruel, like Hitler, for example. So that time he was very poor in Vienna, and then for some reasons this city was run by rich Jewish people. Well, everyone else was very poor, including him. So he was turned down from universities twice. Yeah, he wanted to study art, but he was got turned down twice, things like that. And he used to live in a DOS house. DOS house is like a house for unemployed. Yeah, so thank you. The house for the unemployed. So if you want to work, and then we'll pay you with food, something like that. So he was very poor, basically, Hitler growing up until 20s. Yeah, so it grew, made him somehow started to hate Jewish people, because in this city, the people who got rich was actually the Jewish community that time. So the book did not say outright that it was the reason why he hated the Jewish people, but this is something that I sense probably that was one of the reasons. And another one is when his mom died, suddenly his personality changed. So the school teachers of Hitler actually wrote about him in his diary. So the reason why I like this series, Witness to History, is because it takes the sources from many unique, sources. In this case, is the Hitler's teacher's diary. So the Hitler's teachers that time still remember Dr. Edward Humer. When Hitler's mom died, he can actually tell that suddenly, since that day, his personality changed, basically. So he did not want to talk to anyone, and then he did not smile for years, something like that. So, like, it's amazing how the death of a mom, of a mother in this case, had a really profound effect on him that time. So yeah, that one. Sorry, I'm like going through this. And then what's another thing that is interesting here is that when he came to Germany, he was a foreigner. So he actually was originally from Austria, right? So it's just amazing to me how someone who is actually a foreigner in Germany turned out to be the leader in the next few decades. So I think it was a really an interesting point here, how he started as an immigrant from Austria to the actual Bavaria, Germany, and then a few decades later, he became the leader of that country. And also, although he was originally from Austro-Hungarian area, but he, for some reason, decided to take side with the Germany. That's why when he had to choose whether he wanted to join the Austro-Hungarian forces or the German forces, he decided to join the German forces for the army. So it was an interesting choice to me, how he did not want to be part of the army of his original region. Yeah, he chose Germany that time. And okay, another thing that is interesting is how he managed to get a lot of area around German without going to war at all. So in 1930s, he managed to acquire large territories just from threatening the presidents of the area. For example, the Czechoslovakia president. He just called him to his office, talked a little bit, and after he went outside Hitler's office. Czechoslovakia suddenly became part of Germany without even firing a single shot. So I don't know whether it was using a threat of military power or just bluffing. I don't know what happened, but he was famously acquiring a lot of territory without even sending an army that time, yeah, for that particular period. And then another thing. Okay, so it's amazing how his talent to convince other people actually was the one that made him become the leader of Nazi party. So basically, one of his first job in 1918 was he was trained as a lobbyist, basically. So his job was to convert as many people as he could to a nationalist view, right? And then among these people that were given a job to convert the view, I mean, the people to support nationalist movement, he was the one who got a lot of followers, basically. So he was an influencer. He was an influencer back in the day. So the number of people who followed him was overwhelmingly more than other officers. So that his boss somehow saw his talent, that he was so good as delivering speech, convincing other people, and then from that point, it did his way into the ladder of the political party, and suddenly he became the leader of the Nazi party. So for me, it's about meritocracy. If it's something happened in Indonesia, for example, that people somehow got promoted not because of their achievement, but because of something else, then something like this will not happen. He was promoted because of his achievement. And then he like really flashy public display, like with fiery speeches, and then he loves drama, like using Roman style salute. So you know the Nazi famous salute, right? It's actually taken from Roman era in the past, so it wasn't original from him. And also adopting the symbols such as the swastika. It was originally done for a show, basically. So he liked to put on a show. That's why he did all of this military style uniform and all of stuff like stormtroopers, something like that. So he knew how to attract people's attention and retain, make them retain the memory. So that's the reason behind the salute, the swastika, and things like that. And then, okay, so although he became a successful Nazi party leader, but he failed one time when he tried to take over the Munich, the city of Munich. So he was so sure that people would support him. That's why he set up a small, what is it called? Coup, coup. But then he failed to do so. So, but then it did not stop him from trying. So probably if we can learn from it is, although you fail miserably, basically just like him, this one, but you try again, you became successful, even after you went to prison. Yeah. So after he staged a coup that failed, he went to prison, right? And I remember someone said that in my country, if you want to be the president, you have to go to prison first. One of them was Hitler. Yeah. Hitler, Sukarno, Nelson Mandela. Yeah. So if they want to be the president, they have to go to prison first. This is one of the people, the examples. But I don't know. He was supposed to stay in prison for a long time because he staged a coup, right? Such a big crime, basically, right? But he was released after a year. Yeah. In just only a year, he was released. Unfortunately, the book did not explain why he was released only after a year. If he stayed in prison doing his sentence, probably there will never be World War II. So I don't know. I will try to, who is this? Okay, I will try to find out further about why he was released from prison only a year after doing his sentence. Okay, so another thing would be okay, so when he became, okay, I saw a similarity between Hitler and Suharto. So that time Hitler was able to unite the whole Germany because there was an incident. One person tried to burn the House of Parliament, basically. Okay, so he used this sorry, someone is setting up furniture here. He used the parliamentary building, the Reichstag building. Then he used this incident, blew it out of proportion to start a revolution, basically. So I think that's somehow similar to what Suharto did during the 30 SPKI, right? So started one incident, turn it into a huge drama, and then started a revolution, took over the country. So I think same thing that happened, just like what Hitler did here. And then, but he was very cruel even to fellow German people, not just the Jewish people. For example, if there were people in Germany who he saw did not support the Nazi party, he ordered his military members to say, you have to kill all of them. If you kill the wrong person, I will still forgive you. But I do not forgive you if you do not kill them, if you miss out, basically. So he encouraged his soldiers to take the risk. It's better to kill the wrong people rather than letting the people who do not support the Nazi party live, basically. So he was very extreme about that one. And then after that, oh yeah. So I don't know if you know about the Prime Minister of UK who was so famous for being so stupid because he believed Hitler that time, with the Prime Minister Chamberlain, right, during World War II. So he visited Hitler, right? And then that time Chamberlain said that, wow, he treated me as a friend with a, a double handshake, like I was his best friend, something like that. Turned out in World War I, the same thing happened. The Prime Minister of UK that time was Lloyd George, visited Hitler, and he was very impressed with Hitler that time. And he actually believed that Hitler would never start a war. So this Prime Minister, David Lloyd George, tried to convince the people of the Brits that Germany is harmless, basically. Just like a few years after that, Chamberlain, after visiting Hitler, also, what is it called? Convinced the parliamentary people that Hitler was harmless. Yeah. So there are two prime ministers here who actually are supposed to be put in the same position, but the one who got famous for doing that is Chamberlain. Okay, 2 more minutes. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Germany that time conquered a lot of territory, right, in the east and in the west. But he treated his conquered territory very differently. The one he conquered in the west is somehow he saw as his equal because it was his fellow white people, right? So they left him live, although still in a miserable state. But the one which is on the east, like Eastern Europe and Russia, he didn't treat them as an equal. So actually, Hitler that time did not consider Eastern European as black that time, or the part of the Aryan nation or race, basically, right? That's why when he conquered Poland and Russia and then those areas, he actually told his soldiers to kill as many people as they could and even starve them to death, because something that he did not do to the territory in the West, because he saw the West people are white, just like him. Okay, wait. Last one. Okay, so Hitler was harsh to himself, just like how he was harsh to other people. So he said that if Germans lost the war, they did not deserve to go on living. Can you guys imagine this? If the Germans lost the war, they did not deserve to go on living. That's why he also killed himself. This is very Japanese in my opinion. So it's very understandable in my opinion how he treated other people harshly, but he also treated himself harshly, basically. So okay, so that was the end. So sorry, it was very all over the place. It's the nature of the book is more like a collection of trivia. So there's no actual storyline that is involved in the book. But I hope we learn a bit from it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pipit, for picking a very interesting book. So anyone? Oh,
Wait. Marianne. Come back later. Sorry, it's my debate student.
Is it okay for her?
It's okay.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
a question for
Go ahead.
Pipit.
Okay, just quick lah, because her student already come.
I told him to come at 15.
Okay, okay.
Pipit, you're the expert of international relations, and one of the assumption is among these countries is that there is one superpower in the world. That's what they want to be. At the moment, it feels like United States wants to become the #1 country in the world. And during Hitler era, it was Hitler. He wanted Germany to become the #1 country in the world. And based on what I experienced and I observed is that most these leaders, they use hard power, which is weapon, killing, mass murder, colonization, etc. And for me, and also I talked to other woman diplomat, and I remember one of the Syrian diplomat, her name is Mana. She said, only if the world leaders were female, we might not have to go to war. We could just use soft power, which is negotiation, diplomatic approaches, barter, trading, or charity, or etc. etc. What do you think? Can we use soft power to solve all world problems instead of using hard power, which is war, that is been used by many leaders from Hitler to now Benjamin Netanyahu, Putin, and many other leaders, even including the Hamas leaders? What do you think?
I actually believe soft power is very powerful, but the soft power in this case is actually money instead of the personal approach, like how women actually do. So, Kak, the soft power that you're talking about here, I don't know, is it negotiation or diplomacy? I actually think that the soft power, in the truest sense, is supposed to be about economy. So, just like what happened in with China, for example, right? China make a lot of countries follow China without even sending one military personnel abroad. For example, that was a very different approach than the U.S. and in history. So I think I don't know whether the power of economic persuasion or appeasement is actually only reserved to women. I don't think so. But it's really hard, in my opinion, ideally, to solve everything in this world using negotiation, because realistically, there are a lot of people who do not want to negotiate, such as a lot of terrorist organizations, for example, right? They live by a totally different set of rules, not afraid to die, and very polarized in a way that they live in an echo chamber, doesn't know that they could be wrong or something like that. It doesn't have to be a terrorist organization, but can be, anything. So I think diplomacy works only to a certain extent, just like military works. But right now, the one is on the rise, I think, is the soft power in terms of economy.
Okay, thank you. So it's the soft power that you think is effective is using money or trades or donations and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
negotiation and diplomacy is not strong enough.
Investment.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's better than killing and attacking and burning the whole country, I think, and killing 30,000 of people. I think it's still better.
Yes.
Yeah. And what about donating like gold, or we're providing what the country needs, such as wood or nickel for the batteries? Is that also included in soft power? Do you think it's working if you use that?
It might, but I remember this. If you take care of people, then the crime will take care of themselves, they say. So same thing with poor countries, I think, in my opinion. So this is just another topic that I read about, is usually about terrorism, right? So for example, terrorism, people think the actual problem is about religion. It's not. It's actually about economy. So a lot of people grew up not knowing what to do, and they are in a state of waithood. They wait for something happen to their life, basically. So these young people, and then suddenly this whoever group offered them an opportunity to mean something or to feel important, to have a certain mission, something bigger than themselves and their own life. So they feel like, okay, I need to do this, even though to the point that they have to kill themselves, blow themselves up, and things like that. So, but the actual problem is because they did not have any financial means to be able to live their life to the fullest. So I think yes, whatever we can do to solve the economic situation in poor countries, something like that, will automatically solve a lot of world issues. Can I answer Mbak Imung's question? Yeah. To
Okay.
what extent the upbringing of Hitler impacted the grown-up through him? Does it say at all in the book? Actually, his mom raised him lovingly, very full of affection, like a mom would to their kid, her kid. So he did not go through any, not the book that mentioned, yeah, did not go through any traumatic childhood in a way that it was caused by his family. But he lived in an environment where everyone was so poor, and the only people who could have nice life were the Jewish people that time. So I think there was a deep sense of jealousy, yeah, or envy, basically, to other group of people. So I think that was one of the so the influence is bigger from the environment rather than from his own family. If I can, all right.
Okay, I think because the time limit, I think we have to finish. Maybe just a bit add
You should take
something.
picture also. Take picture.
Oh yeah, picture.
The recording stop first.
Camera.
Okay, anyone can take photo, please?
Stephen G. Stephen G. It sounds like a rapper's name.
Sorry, I don't. I'm outside right now. I'm at
Okay.
a friend's house, so I don't bring the book, so I cannot take
You
a
want to
picture.
just show your face?
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sure.
1, 2, 3. Oh wait, belum. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for all of you. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to learn more about Hitler, I have some video, very funny video. I will share it on the group. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hitler
Thank you
is
very much.
Edo's idol when he was in high school.
Yeah. I've read The Man Comes when I was 15.
Yes, but I wanted to buy the book. He said it's not good, so I did not buy the book.
No, it's not good.
Okay. Bye-bye. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pipit, for the room.
Bye. Thanks a lot.